Street trash like you don't belong here, black boy. The guard's boot came down on Isaac's speaker. The 11-year-old froze, quarters scattered across Beacon Hill's pristine sidewalk. This is where real people live. $1 million homes. And you? The guard grabbed Isaac's backpack, dumped it. Thrift store clothes, shelter address. You're nobody. Isaac's voice shook. I was just dancing, sir. I wasn't bothering. Dancing? The guard laughed. You were begging. That's what kids like you do, right? Above, behind iron gates, a billionaire's paralyzed daughter watched from her second-floor window. Emily Ashford hadn't smiled in 3 years, until this black homeless boy started dancing on the sidewalk below. What happened when her mother found out will shock you. What happened when the media exposed their story will break your heart. And what happened when they tried to destroy this boy? You need to see it to believe it. Subscribe now. Let me take you back. 2 hours before that confrontation. Before the guard. Before everything fell apart. December morning in Boston. 28 degrees. Cold enough to see your breath, cold enough to make hope feel impossible. Isaac Young stood on the public sidewalk outside the Ashford estate, setting up his Bluetooth speaker. 11 years old. Black. Wore his cleanest hoodie, which wasn't saying much. His sneakers had holes in them, but they still had grip. He pressed play. Music filled the frozen air. And he danced. Not because anyone was watching, not because he expected anything. He danced because it was the one thing that made him feel alive. The one thing his grandfather taught him before he died. The one thing no one could take away. 40 feet above, behind a second-floor window, Emily Ashford sat in her wheelchair. She'd been sitting there for 3 years, silent, empty, broken, until she saw him move. Emily's nurse, Margaret, had seen it all. 3 years of specialists. 3 years of therapies. Physical, occupational, psychological, experimental. Victoria Ashford had spent millions trying to bring her daughter back. Nothing worked. The accident had stolen Emily's father. The paralysis had stolen her legs. But what it did to her spirit? That was worse than any physical injury. Day 1095. Margaret marked it in her log. 3 years to the day since Emily last smiled. 3 years since she engaged with the world beyond her window. Margaret tried, like she did every morning. Emily, honey, Dr. Morrison is coming at 2. Maybe today we could try... Nothing. Your mom picked up those books you used to like, the ones about... Emily's eyes stayed fixed on the window, on the view of nothing. But then something changed. Her head tilted, just slightly. Her eyes tracked movement below. Margaret followed her gaze. A boy. Black kid. Couldn't be more than 11 or 12. Dancing on the sidewalk like his life depended on it. No hat out for money. No sign begging for change. Just pure movement. Raw, honest, beautiful. Contemporary fusion mixed with street style. Moves that shouldn't work together but somehow did. He spun, dropped, flowed. His body told stories his mouth couldn't. Margaret watched Emily watch him. And then it happened. Emily's mouth curved, barely, but it was there. A smile. Margaret's hands shook as she grabbed her tablet, hitting the emergency contact. Victoria Ashford answered on the first ring. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Victoria, she smiled. Emily smiled. Silence on the other end. Then, what? There's a boy, dancing outside. She's been watching him for 15 minutes and she just... Victoria, she smiled. I saw it. A real smile. Victoria Ashford, CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, woman who negotiated with presidents, left her board meeting without a word. She was in her car within 3 minutes. Below, Isaac finished his set. He counted his earnings. $46 in quarters and bills. Not bad for a Tuesday morning. Enough to buy winter gloves for him and Tommy, maybe some extra socks. He was packing up when the black sedan pulled alongside the curb. Isaac tensed. He knew these cars. Private security, corporate types, people who didn't like seeing kids like him in neighborhoods like this. But the woman who stepped out wasn't security. Rachel, Victoria's assistant, approached with calculated warmth. Expensive suit, careful smile. "Excuse me. That was incredible." Isaac's guard went up immediately. "Thanks." "I'm serious. You're very talented. Have you had formal training?" "My grandfather taught me." "Well, he taught you well." Rachel pulled out a business card. "I work for someone who might be interested in hiring you for private performances." Isaac looked at the card. Ashford Technologies. He'd seen that name on buildings downtown. "What kind of performances?" "There's a young girl. She's been through a lot. Medical issues. She loves dance but can't participate herself. Watching you this morning brought her joy. Real joy. Her mother would like to hire you to perform. Daily. 30 minutes. Very generous compensation." Isaac's instincts screamed caution. He'd learned early, when rich people offer you money, there's always a catch. "How generous?" $200 per day. Isaac's poker face almost cracked. $200 a day? That was more than he made in a week on the street. That was security deposit money. That was getting Tommy and him out of the shelter money. "What's the catch?" Rachel smiled. Genuine this time. "Smart kid. No catch. Just dance. Make her happy. That's it. I want to meet her first, and her family. I need to know this is legitimate." Most 11-year-olds wouldn't negotiate. Most would just say yes. But Isaac wasn't most 11-year-olds. The shelter taught him that. The streets taught him that. Losing his grandfather taught him that. Rachel's respect deepened. "Of course, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., I'll text you the address." "I don't have a phone." "Then I'll pick you up." "Where are you staying?" Isaac hesitated. Giving out the shelter address meant admitting where he came from, meant judgment, meant assumptions. But he was tired of hiding. "Men's shelter on Tremont Street." Rachel didn't flinch, didn't judge, just nodded. 9 a.m. tomorrow? And Isaac? She waited until he met her eyes. "Thank you. You have no idea what you just did for that little girl." After she left, Isaac sat on the curb, staring at the business card. Above, Emily pressed her hand against the window, watching him, still smiling. The shelter smelled like industrial soap and too many people in too small a space. Isaac pushed through the doors at 6 p.m., his speaker tucked under his arm like treasure. Mr. Williams looked up from his desk. 50-something, gray beard, eyes that had seen every kind of hard luck story. He ran the men's shelter like a ship, strict but fair. "Isaac, good day. Made $46 before that job offer." Williams raised an eyebrow. "Job offer?" Isaac told him everything. The dancing, the black sedan, the business card, the $200 a day. Williams examined the card, his expression unreadable. "Ashford Technologies. That's serious money, son." "What did you tell them?" "That I'd meet the family first. Make sure it's real." "Smart." Williams handed back the card. "But Isaac, be careful. Sometimes rich people want to help. Sometimes they want to feel good about themselves. And sometimes they just want a story to tell at dinner parties. Know the difference." Isaac nodded. He'd learned that lesson the hard way already. In the common area, Tommy Brooks looked up from his homework. 8 years old, gap-toothed smile, eyes too old for his age. He'd been at the shelter for 6 months. His mom was in rehab. His dad was gone. Isaac had taken him under his wing since day one. "Isaac, did you get the gloves?" "Not yet, buddy, but soon. I got something better. I got a job." Tommy's eyes went wide. A real job? A real job. The other boys gathered around. Jason, Marcus, little Dev, who barely spoke English. They all looked at Isaac like he'd won the lottery. And maybe he had. But that night, lying in his bunk, Isaac couldn't sleep. He thought about his mom. 3 years gone. Cancer ate her alive while they watched, helpless. No insurance, no money. Just pain, and then nothing. He thought about his dad. 8 years into a 12-year sentence for a crime that wouldn't have gotten him 6 months if he'd been white and rich. Non-violent drug offense. First-time charge. But he was black and poor, so they made an example. He thought about his grandfather, the man who raised him after Mom died, who taught him to dance, to dream, to survive, who died of a heart attack at the bus stop coming home from his 3rd job. Isaac had been 10 years old, alone at the hospital. A social worker with tired eyes and too many cases told him, "You'll go into the system, foster care. We'll find you a good home." But the homes weren't good. 3 different families in 8 months. One kept the state money and barely fed him. One had too many kids already and no time for another. One told him outright, "We wanted a younger child, easier to manage." So Isaac ran, found the shelter, found Mr. Williams, found a place where at least he could stay with Tommy, protect the younger kids, maintain some control over his own life. The streets taught him to dance for money. His grandfather's voice in his head taught him to dance for joy. And now this, a billionaire's daughter, $200 a day. It felt too good to be true. Across town, in a bedroom bigger than the entire shelter common room, Emily Ashford lay in her adaptive bed, staring at the ceiling. Her body didn't work like it used to. The doctors said she'd never walk again. Spinal injury, T12 complete. Medical terms that meant, this is forever. But Emily didn't care about walking. She cared about the numbness, the emptiness, the way the world felt gray and flat and meaningless. 3 years ago, she and her father were driving home from her dance recital. She'd just performed a solo. Arabesque to pirouette to grand jeté. Her father had stood up and cheered. 2 miles from home, a drunk driver ran a red light. Her father died on impact. Emily woke up in a hospital, paralyzed from the waist down, and something inside her just stopped. She stopped talking, stopped crying, stopped feeling. Until today. Until she saw a boy who had every reason to stop moving, who kept dancing anyway. Victoria entered without knocking. She never knocked anymore. Privacy was a luxury Emily had lost along with everything else. "Margaret told me you smiled today." Emily didn't respond. Couldn't. Wouldn't. "She said there was a boy dancing outside." Victoria pulled up the security footage on her tablet, watched Isaac move, watched Emily watch him. "I hired him. He starts tomorrow, if that's okay with you." Emily's hand moved, just slightly. Thumb up. The first voluntary communication in 1,095 days. Victoria's eyes filled with tears she wouldn't let fall. "Okay, baby. Okay." Rachel's car pulled up to the shelter at exactly 9 a.m. Black sedan, leather seats, climate control that made Isaac's skin prickle after the morning cold. He'd worn his best clothes, which meant jeans without holes, a hoodie he'd washed twice, and sneakers he'd cleaned with a toothbrush. He still looked like exactly what he was. The drive to Beacon Hill took 12 minutes. Might as well have been 12 light years. Row houses became estates. Apartments became mansions. Chain link became wrought iron. The Ashford estate sat behind gates that cost more than most cars. Colonial revival architecture, white columns, marble fountain, oak trees that had been alive since before Isaac's grandfather was born. Rachel pressed a button. The gates swung open. Isaac's stomach tightened. The driveway curved through manicured lawn that looked like a golf course. The house itself rose 3 stories, every window gleaming. "Try not to be intimidated," Rachel said quietly. "Mrs. Ashford can be intense, but she loves her daughter. That's what matters." They parked. Rachel led him up 5 stone steps to a door that belonged in a castle. Inside, the air smelled like money, fresh flowers, expensive wood polish, something baking in a kitchen Isaac couldn't see. The foyer had a chandelier bigger than his bunk, marble floors that echoed with every step, a staircase that spiraled up like something from a movie. Isaac kept his hands in his pockets, afraid to touch anything, afraid to break something worth more than his entire life. "This way." Rachel led him upstairs. The hallway was wider than the shelter's common room. Paintings on the walls. Real paintings, not posters. She knocked on a door at the end of the hall. "Come in." The room beyond took Isaac's breath away. 40 square meters, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the garden, a bed that looked like a cloud, a piano in the corner, equipment everywhere, wheelchair, walker, parallel bars, therapy tools, and in the wheelchair by the window, a girl, blonde, pale, thin in a way that spoke of hospitals and not eating enough, but her eyes were sharp, aware, watching him with an intensity that made Isaac want to both run and stay. "Emily, this is Isaac Young. Isaac, this is Emily Ashford." Isaac stepped forward, not too close. Respectful space. "Hi, I'm Isaac. I saw you watching yesterday from up here. You've got a really good view. Could see all my moves." Emily didn't respond, didn't smile, just watched. The silence stretched. Then she blinked. Once. Deliberate. Rachel translated. "That means hello." "Oh, cool." Isaac relaxed slightly. "So, Rachel said you like dance? I could perform some stuff if you want. Or we could just, hang out. Whatever you're comfortable with." The door opened behind him. Victoria Ashford entered like weather. Power suit. Heels that clicked on hardwood. Eyes that could calculate your net worth in 3 seconds. She looked at Isaac. Really looked. Took in the thrift store clothes, the worn sneakers, the careful posture of a kid who knew he didn't belong. "You're the dancer." "Yes, ma'am." "Rachel says you're talented." "I do my best, ma'am." "Why dance?" The question caught him off guard. "Ma'am? Why do you dance? For money? Attention? What?" Isaac met her eyes, refused to look away. "Because my grandfather taught me, and because when I dance I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, even if I'm nowhere at all." Victoria's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. "Rachel will explain the contract. 200 per day, 30 minutes, 1-month trial. You'll perform here in Emily's room. You'll sign an NDA. I need to know what she likes first." Victoria stopped. "What?" Isaac gestured to Emily. "What kind of music does she like? What styles? Fast or slow? I need to know what makes her happy. Otherwise, I'm just dancing at her, not for her." Emily's hand moved, pointed at the piano. "Classical," Victoria said quietly. "She used to play. Before." Isaac nodded. "I can work with that." "Good. Rachel, handle the paperwork. Isaac, you start tomorrow." But Isaac didn't move. "Actually, ma'am, could I start now? I brought my speaker." The contract had 6 pages. Isaac read every word. Rachel watched, surprised. Most people just sign. Most people haven't had to learn the hard way, Isaac said, eyes scanning clause after clause. NDA, standard, photography rights for therapeutic documentation only, reasonable, termination clause heavily favored employer, not reasonable. This section says you can terminate at any time for any reason, but I have to give 2 weeks' notice. That's not fair. Rachel blinked. You're 11. I'm 11, and I know when a contract is one-sided, I want a mutual termination clause. Either party, 1 week notice, no penalty. Mrs. Ashford won't, then ask her. 10 minutes later, Victoria returned with a red pen. She'd crossed out the clause, written in the change, initialed it. She handed the pen to Isaac. You're either very smart or very stupid to negotiate with me. My grandfather always said, respect yourself first, then others will follow. Your grandfather was right. Isaac signed. The next morning, he showed up at 8:55 a.m., 5 minutes early. Margaret let him in. Emily's already by the window. She's been there since 7, waiting. Isaac entered Emily's room. She'd positioned her wheelchair for optimal viewing. A small space had been cleared in the center of the room, about 4 meters by 4 meters. Good morning, Isaac said. I brought something. He pulled out his phone, borrowed from Mr. Williams, loaded with music. Classical pieces. Contemporary fusion. I spent last night making a playlist. Mixed classical with modern. Thought we could try something different. Emily's eyes widened. Isaac pressed play. Vivaldi met hip-hop. Tchaikovsky flowed into contemporary. Debussy merged with street. And he danced. Not for money. Not for pity. For Emily. He moved like water, like fire, like wind. Every gesture told a story. Loss, hope, survival, joy. Emily's hands gripped her wheelchair armrests. Her breathing changed. Her eyes followed every movement. When the song ended, Isaac was breathing hard. What did you think? Emily's hand moved. Slowly. Deliberately. She pointed at Isaac, then at herself, then made a small gesture, hand moving in a wave. Margaret gasped. She wants to know if you can teach her movements she can do. Isaac's face broke into a smile. Absolutely. Can you move your arms? Emily nodded. Upper body? Another nod. Then yeah, we can dance together. Different style, but still dancing. Watch. He showed her arm waves, head movements, upper body isolations, movements that didn't require legs but still embodied rhythm and grace. Emily attempted a small arm wave, clumsy, uncertain. That's it. Do it again. She did. Better this time. Now with the music. Vivaldi swelled. Emily moved her arms, small movements, fragile, but there. Margaret's hand covered her mouth, tears streaming, because Emily was smiling, really, truly smiling, not the small curve from yesterday, a full smile, joy, breaking through 3 years of darkness, like dawn. The days blurred together. Day 3. Emily attempted head rolls, synchronized to Chopin. Day 5. She requested specific songs by pointing at Isaac's playlist. Day 7. She followed along to an entire 30-minute routine, upper body only, breathless and beaming. Day 10. Something extraordinary happened. Isaac was mid-performance when Emily's wheelchair shifted. She was leaning forward, arms extended, moving with such enthusiasm she nearly tipped. Whoa, careful! Isaac caught the armrest, and Emily laughed. Not a smile, not a giggle, a full, bright, uninhibited laugh. The sound shocked them both. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes went wide. Margaret, watching from the corner, burst into tears. Isaac grinned. That was awesome. Do it again. So she did, laughed until tears ran down her face. Happy tears, the first happy tears in 3 years. That evening, Victoria reviewed the security footage, watched her daughter laugh. watched a homeless boy treat Emily not like a patient, not like a tragedy, but like a peer, a friend. She called her therapist, Dr. Morrison. "What's happening?" Dr. Morrison watched the footage Victoria sent. "What's happening is that boy isn't trying to fix her. He's not treating her like she's broken. He's just present, authentic. No agenda beyond making her happy. That's what she needed. What she's needed for 3 years. I've spent millions on specialists. Specialists treated her like a problem to solve. He treats her like a person to connect with. There's a difference." Victoria hung up and did something she hadn't done in years. She went to Emily's room, sat down on the floor beside her wheelchair, and talked to her daughter. Not at her. With her. "I've been watching the videos. You and Isaac. You look happy, baby." Emily nodded. "I'm going to extend his contract. 2 months, with a raise, 300 per day. Would you like that?" Emily's thumb went up. Enthusiastic. "Good, me too." That night, Isaac returned to the shelter with $600 saved. He bought Tommy new shoes. He bought the younger kids winter coats. He paid Mr. Williams extra for the extra food he'd been eating. "You don't have to do that," Williams said. "Yeah, I do. Fair is fair." Williams studied him. "Isaac, what are you going to do when this job ends? You know it's temporary, right?" Isaac knew. Rich people's charity always was. But he didn't say that. Instead, "I'm saving for an apartment. For me and Tommy. Get us out of the system, somewhere stable." "That's a good goal, son. Smart." "My grandfather said, plan for the worst, hope for the best, work for what you need." He taught you well. That night, Isaac lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Tommy was asleep in the bunk below. The shelter was quiet, rare and precious. Isaac thought about Emily, about her smile, her laugh, the way she looked at him like he was normal. Not charity, not a problem, just Isaac. He thought about his mother, who taught him kindness, his father, who taught him resilience, his grandfather, who taught him dignity. And he made a promise. Whatever happened, however this ended, he wouldn't let them turn Emily back into the girl who couldn't smile. Above, in her mansion bedroom, Emily sat by her window, looking down at the empty sidewalk where Isaac had first danced. Her hand pressed against the glass. She'd found something she thought was gone forever. Hope. The next 2 weeks felt like a dream. A fragile, beautiful dream that Isaac was afraid to trust but couldn't help embracing. Every morning, Rachel picked him up at 8:55. Every morning, Emily waited by the window. Every morning, they danced together. Him on his feet, her in her chair, both of them lost in music and movement and the simple joy of connection. Isaac taught Emily a dance his grandfather had taught him. West African movements, adapted for seated performance, arm waves that mimicked ocean tides, head movements that told stories without words. Emily, in turn, shared pieces of her life before. Not with words, she still didn't speak, but with photos. Videos on her tablet, pictures of her and her father at dance recitals, videos of her playing piano, glimpses of the girl she used to be. Isaac looked at a photo of Emily mid-leap, both feet off the ground, joy radiating from every pixel. "You were incredible," he said quietly. Emily wrote on her tablet, "I felt free." You can still feel free, just different way. She wrote, "How did you stay free? After losing everything?" Isaac thought about his answer. Really thought. "I didn't lose everything. I lost a lot. But I kept dancing. I kept Tommy safe. I kept showing up. Sometimes that's all you can do. Just show up and keep moving." Emily nodded. Wrote, You showed up for me. You showed up for me, too. You remind me why dancing matters. That evening, Victoria offered Isaac the extended contract. 3 months, $400 per day, plus funding for formal dance training at the Boston Academy of Performing Arts. Isaac stared at the offer letter. Why? Victoria's mask slipped, just for a moment. Because you gave me my daughter back, and because you deserve the same opportunities as anyone else. Talent doesn't care about zip codes. Isaac signed. That night, he told Tommy, "We're getting out. 6 months, maybe less. I'm saving enough for first month, last month's security deposit. We're getting an apartment." Tommy's eyes shone. Just you and me? Just you and me, buddy. Family. For 2 perfect weeks, everything was good. And then the world exploded. Bernard Hartley didn't become CFO of Ashford Technologies by being sentimental. He became CFO by understanding that everything, including human emotion, could be quantified, leveraged, and monetized. The quarterly earnings report sat on the conference table like a death sentence. Stock down 8%. Investor confidence shaky. Board members asking uncomfortable questions about Victoria's leadership. Hartley saw opportunity where others saw crisis. "The tech sector is saturated," he said, voice smooth as poison. "We need a human interest angle, something that makes Ashford Technologies relatable, warm, caring." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "Your daughter's recovery, the homeless boy. It's a perfect story. Billionaire CEO's paralyzed daughter saved by an underprivileged black child through the power of dance. Diversity, redemption, hope. We control the narrative, leak it to the right outlets, watch our stock recover. My daughter's trauma is not a press release. Your daughter's recovery is exactly what our investors need to see. It shows heart, shows that Ashford Technologies cares about community, about giving back. The boy benefits too. Scholarship, publicity, opportunities he'd never get otherwise. Everyone wins." Victoria stood. "No. Victoria, your emotional attachment to privacy is affecting shareholder value. The board has fiduciary responsibilities, then let the board vote. But Emily's medical history stays private. Isaac's story stays private. End of discussion." Hartley smiled. Thin, cold. "Of course, whatever you think is best." 48 hours later, Isaac's phone, the one Mr. Williams let him borrow, exploded with notifications. Text from Rachel. "Call me immediately." Text from Mr. Williams. "Get back to the shelter now." Text from a number he didn't recognize. "How much did they pay you to sell out that little girl?" His hands shook as he opened the news app. The headline punched him in the stomach. "Black street urchin becomes miracle worker for paralyzed heiress." Below it, photos. Isaac dancing on the sidewalk. Security footage of him entering the Ashford estate. Emily's medical records. Her diagnosis, her accident, her father's death. All of it exposed. All of it public. And Isaac's life. His mother's death certificate. His father's prison record. His shelter address. Every private pain turned into public spectacle. The article framed it as inspiration. The homeless boy who saved the rich girl. The magical Negro who gave the white savior her smile back. Isaac felt sick. His phone rang. Rachel. "Isaac, I'm so sorry. We're trying to find out who leaked. You think I did this?" His voice cracked. "You think I wanted everyone to know my dad's in prison? My mom's dead? That I sleep in a shelter? No, God, no. Victoria knows you didn't." But the line went dead. Another call coming through. Mr. Williams. "Isaac, don't come back to the shelter. Media everywhere. They're camped outside, asking about you, taking pictures of the other kids. I had to call the police." "Mr. Williams, I didn't." "I know you didn't, son. But social services just showed up. They're using the media attention to question the shelter's capacity. They want to transfer you to a group home. Tonight. They want to separate you from Tommy. Isaac's world tilted. They can't. They can. They are. I'm sorry, Isaac. I fought them, but... The phone slipped from Isaac's fingers. Everything he'd built. Everything he'd worked for. The stability, the safety, the promise he'd made to Tommy. Gone. At the Ashford estate, Emily sat in front of her tablet, reading the article, reading the comments. That poor boy. Such a saint. Finally, a positive story about inner-city youth. Proof that even the most disadvantaged can serve a purpose. I wonder if she'll let him stay once she's cured. Emily's hands trembled. These people didn't see Isaac. They saw a symbol, a charity case, a feel-good story. They'd taken his dignity and packaged it for consumption. She turned her wheelchair toward the window, toward the sidewalk where Isaac used to dance, where a security guard had humiliated him while she watched, and Emily did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She screamed, no words, just sound, rage, anguish, fury at a world that crushed beautiful things and called it kindness. Margaret rushed in. Emily, what? Emily grabbed her tablet, typed with shaking fingers, find Isaac, bring him here, now. Victoria burst through the door seconds later. She'd been in her office pulling security logs, tracking down the leak. Her face was ice. I know who did this. She pulled up email records on her tablet, showed Emily. Bernard Hartley's assistant. Access to building security. Access to medical files. Payments to a Boston Globe reporter. Email chain discussing strategic leak and maximizing emotional impact. Emily's eyes went wide. Victoria's voice was steel. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Hartley is finished, but first... She looked at Emily. Really looked. First we protect Isaac. Whatever it takes. Emily nodded, typed, he protected me. We protect him. Damn right we do. But Isaac didn't know that. Isaac only knew that his world was collapsing. He stood on a street corner 3 blocks from the shelter, backpack on his shoulders, speaker in his hands. The speaker was cracked from where the guard had stepped on it. It still worked, barely. He had $200 in his pocket. Tommy's new shoes in his backpack, and nowhere to go. The group home social services mentioned was across the city, different district, different school, no Tommy. Isaac thought about running, just disappearing into the system's cracks, becoming another statistic. His phone buzzed. Text from a blocked number. Meet me at the corner of Tremont and Oak, 5 minutes. Victoria Ashford. Isaac stared at the message. Rich people's charity always came with strings, always came with expectations. He'd learned that lesson. But Emily's face flashed in his mind. Her smile, her laugh, the way she looked at him like he mattered. Maybe some people were different. Maybe some people meant it when they said they cared. Isaac walked to the corner. Victoria's car was already waiting. Victoria Ashford had negotiated billion-dollar mergers. She'd faced down hostile board members, aggressive competitors, federal regulators. Nothing had ever been harder than looking Isaac Young in the eye and saying, I'm sorry, I failed you. They sat in her car. Isaac in the passenger seat, backpack clutched on his lap like armor. Victoria in the driver's seat, every bit of her CEO composure stripped away. I should have protected you better. Should have seen this coming. Should have... Why didn't you think it was me? Isaac's voice was quiet. Everyone else did. Because I watched the security footage. I saw your face when you read that article. Nobody acts that well. And because Emily told me. Isaac blinked. She can't talk. She wrote it. Isaac would never hurt me. Find who did. Victoria's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I found who did. She showed him the evidence. The emails. The payments. the trail leading directly to Bernard Hartley. Isaac's jaw clenched. Why? Stock prices, investor confidence. He wanted a feel-good story to boost the company's image. When I refused, he did it anyway. Leaked everything, your information, Emily's medical records, all of it. HIPAA violations, exploitation of a minor, corporate espionage. What are you going to do? I'm going to destroy him. Victoria's voice was ice. Emergency board meeting tomorrow. Criminal referral to federal prosecutors. He'll face charges. He'll lose everything. Good. Isaac meant it. But I need your help. Isaac looked at her. Why would I help you? You're all the same. Rich people who use poor kids as props and... Isaac. Victoria cut him off. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust Emily. She's fighting for you right now, refusing to let this go. But if we don't control this narrative, Hartley wins. The media keeps spinning you as a charity case. Emily stays trapped in this story. And you... She paused. You lose, Tommy. Isaac's breath caught. What? Social Services is using the media attention to push your transfer. They want to separate you from Tommy tonight. But if we expose Hartley, if we show that this leak was corporate exploitation, not your doing, I can use my lawyers to block the transfer. Keep you together. Get you stable housing. Why would you do that? Because it's right. Because you deserve better. And because Emily needs you to fight. Not for her. With her. Isaac's hands shook. What do you need from me? Tomorrow I'm holding a press conference, exposing Hartley, correcting the narrative. I need you there. You and Emily together, showing the truth of what happened. Whoa! You want us to tell our story to the same media that just destroyed my privacy? No. I want you to take your story back, on your terms, with your words, not as a victim, as a survivor who refuses to be used. Isaac closed his eyes, thought about Tommy, about the shelter, about Emily and her smile. What does Emily want? Ask her yourself. Victoria drove him to the estate. Media vans were camped outside the gates. Cameras flashed as the car pulled through. Inside, Emily waited in her room. When Isaac entered, she grabbed her tablet immediately. Typed, I'm sorry. Isaac shook his head. Not your fault. They used us. Both of us. I know. Tomorrow we show them they can't. Isaac read the words, read the determination in her eyes. You sure about this? Emily nodded, typed, You showed up for me, I show up for you. That's what friends do. Friends. Isaac had almost forgotten what that word meant. Okay, we do this together. Emily smiled, typed, Together. That night, Victoria's legal team built the case. Rachel provided testimony. It pulled email records. Private investigators traced payments. By morning, they had everything. Bernard Hartley had committed multiple federal crimes. HIPAA violations, wire fraud, exploitation of a minor, insider trading based on the planned stock boost. The evidence was airtight. Victoria called him at 6 a.m. Emergency board meeting, 9 a.m., be there. Hartley's voice was smooth, confident. Of course, I'll bring the quarterly reports. You do that. She hung up. Looked at Isaac and Emily sitting side by side, one in a wheelchair, one in borrowed clothes, both of them warriors. Ready to take down an empire? Emily's thumb went up. Isaac grinned. Let's do it. The Ashford Technologies boardroom was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. A table that cost more than most cars. Leather chairs that whispered power. Bernard Hartley entered at 8:58 a.m. Perfectly pressed suit. Confident smile. He'd played this game before. He didn't know the rules had changed. Victoria sat at the head of the table, Rachel beside her. The board members arranged on both sides, old money, new money, people who'd built empires and people who'd inherited them. And at the far end, Isaac and Emily. Hartley's step faltered. Victoria, this is a board meeting. Why are there children? Sit down, Bernard. The steel in her voice made him freeze. He sat. Victoria stood, pressed a button. The room's screens came alive. For 3 years, my daughter has been silent, trapped in grief and trauma. 6 weeks ago, a young man named Isaac Young helped her find joy again. Not through expensive therapy, not through medical intervention, through simple human kindness. She clicked. Images appeared. Isaac dancing, Emily smiling, both of them laughing. I hired Isaac privately, paid him fairly, protected both their privacy, because that's what decent people do. Another click. The Boston Globe article appeared on every screen. 48 hours ago, someone leaked confidential medical records, personal information about a minor, and a fabricated narrative designed to manipulate public emotion. Hartley's face remained neutral, but his fingers tapped the table. Once. Twice. Victoria, if you're suggesting... I'm not suggesting anything, Bernard. I'm showing you evidence. The screens changed. Email chains, payment records, digital footprints. Every board member leaned forward. Victoria's voice was surgical. At 2:47 p.m. on Tuesday, your executive assistant accessed building security footage without authorization. At 3:15 p.m., she accessed Emily's medical files, a HIPAA violation. At 4:02 p.m., she sent encrypted files to Thomas Richardson, a reporter at the Boston Globe. At 4:30 p.m., your corporate account transferred $15,000 to an offshore account Richardson controls. The room went silent. Hartley's lawyer face cracked. This is circumstantial. There's more. Victoria clicked again. Your emails to the assistant. Quote, we need a human interest story, something that makes us look compassionate. The kid and the daughter. Make it happen. Hartley stood. That's taken out of context. Sit down. He sat. Victoria looked at each board member. Bernard Hartley violated federal privacy laws, exploited a minor, committed wire fraud, and planned to use the resulting stock boost to orchestrate a hostile takeover, my removal as CEO, his appointment to replace me. She showed the final emails. Hartley's plans laid bare, conversations with outside investors, promises of new leadership, and profit-focused management. The board members' faces hardened. Hartley's voice rose. This company needs leadership that prioritizes shareholders over sentiment. Victoria has been distracted for years, letting personal issues affect... Personal issues? Victoria's voice cut like glass. My daughter was paralyzed. My husband died. I spent 3 years watching my child fade away. And when someone finally gave her hope, she gestured to Isaac. You turned it into a PR stunt. She walked around the table, stood directly in front of Hartley. You didn't just violate laws, Bernard. You violated human decency. You took a child's pain and packaged it for profit. You exposed another child's trauma for stock prices. You turned kindness into exploitation. She leaned in close. You picked the wrong family to mess with. Victoria returned to her seat. The board will vote. Either you terminate Bernard Hartley immediately and refer him for criminal prosecution, or I resign, take my patents, my research team, and half your revenue stream to a competitor. The vote took 3 minutes. Unanimous. Hartley was escorted out by security. His corporate accounts frozen, his access revoked, his empire crumbling in real time. As the door closed behind him, Victoria stood again. Now, we fix this the right way. 2 hours later, the press conference began. Every major outlet attended. Cameras, microphones, reporters hungry for the next chapter of the viral story. Victoria stepped to the podium. Isaac and Emily beside her. Isaac standing, Emily in her wheelchair, both holding hands. Good morning. I'm Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Technologies. This is my daughter, Emily, and this is Isaac Young. We're here to set the record straight. Flashes exploded. Pens scratched. Recorders hummed. 6 weeks ago, Isaac was dancing on a public sidewalk. My daughter saw him from her window. For the first time in 3 years, she smiled. I hired Isaac privately to perform for Emily. We developed a contract. We protected both their privacy. It was working beautifully. She paused. Let the silence build. Then someone in my company decided to exploit that joy for corporate profit. They leaked confidential medical records. They exposed a minor's personal trauma. They framed a beautiful story of human connection as a charity spectacle. Victoria's voice hardened. That person has been terminated. They will face federal charges. And I am here to say, Isaac Young is not a charity case. He is not a feel-good story. He is a talented, brilliant young man who gave my daughter her smile back through simple, authentic kindness. She looked at Isaac, nodded. Isaac stepped to the microphone. His voice shook at first, then steadied. I didn't dance for Emily to become famous. I didn't do it for money. I did it because dancing is who I am, and because she reminded me why it matters. He paused, gathered courage. People online called me a miracle worker, a street urchin who got saved by a rich family. But that's not what happened. Emily saved me, too. She reminded me that kindness isn't about where you come from or how much money you have. It's about seeing people, really seeing them. He looked at Emily. She smiled. We're not a story. We're friends. And friendship doesn't care about zip codes. The reporters erupted with questions. Isaac stepped back. Emily rolled forward. Every camera focused on her. She took a breath, opened her mouth, and spoke. For the first time in 1,095 days. For the first time since the accident that stole her father and her legs. Her voice was soft, scratchy from disuse, but clear. Isaac showed me that being stuck doesn't mean being stopped. I can't walk, but I can still move. I can still feel. I can still dance. Tears ran down her face. Happy tears. He gave me that back. So thank you, Isaac, for seeing me, for staying, for dancing. The press conference room went silent. Then someone started clapping. Then another, then everyone. A standing ovation for an 11-year-old girl who found her voice again. That evening, the story went viral, but different this time. Not street urchin saves heiress. CEO exposes corporate corruption to protect children's privacy. Paralyzed girl speaks for first time in 3 years. When friendship matters more than profit. The hashtag #WorthNotWealth trended worldwide. Ashford Technologies stock didn't drop. It rose. Investors responded to ethics over exploitation. Bernard Hartley was arrested at his home that night. Multiple federal charges. And Isaac? Isaac got a call from social services. Mr. Young, in light of recent events and testimony from Mrs. Ashford's legal team, we're suspending the transfer order. You'll remain at your current shelter placement with Tommy Brooks. Isaac closed his eyes, breathed. Thank you. But Victoria wasn't done yet. 6 months later. The Community Arts Center opened on a Tuesday morning. 3 stories, dance studios, music rooms, art spaces, a cafeteria that served free meals. All funded by Ashford Technologies and public donations that poured in after the press conference. The name above the door, the Isaac and Emily Center for Young Artists. Isaac had argued against using their names. Victoria insisted. You both deserve recognition, not as charity cases, as founders, as leaders. Deal with it. so he dealt with it. The opening ceremony drew hundreds: shelter kids, foster kids, low-income families, and press. But the good kind this time. The kind that wanted to document hope, not exploit pain. Isaac stood at the front, holding scissors for the ribbon cutting. Emily beside him in her wheelchair, Tommy on his other side, grinning, gap-toothed and proud. Victoria gave the speech. 6 months ago, my daughter couldn't smile. A young man gave her that gift back. Today, we're giving that gift forward. This center is for every kid who's been told they don't belong. Every kid who's been judged by their zip code instead of their talent. Every kid who just needs a chance. She looked at Isaac and Emily. These two taught me something. Worth isn't what you own. It's what you give when you have nothing. The crowd erupted. Isaac cut the ribbon. The doors opened. Kids flooded in, faces bright, eyes wide, running toward dance studios and art rooms and possibilities they'd never had before. Inside, Isaac's first class waited. 20 kids, all backgrounds, all abilities. Emily co-taught. From her wheelchair, demonstrating adaptive movements, speaking clearly now, confident now. Dance isn't about perfect form, she told the class. It's about perfect expression. You don't need legs to dance. You just need heart. A little girl in a wheelchair raised her hand. Can I really dance? Emily smiled, showed her a routine she and Isaac had created. Full body expression, wheelchair spins, arm movements that told stories. You're already dancing. You just didn't know it yet. After class, Isaac and Emily sat in the center's courtyard, autumn sun warm on their faces. You think we made a difference? Isaac asked. Emily nodded. We made a start. Your mom's scary, you know, in a good way. Emily laughed. She learned from the best. You taught her to fight for what matters. We taught each other. Victoria approached with Mr. Williams. They'd become unlikely allies, billionaire CEO and shelter coordinator, united by their belief in second chances. Isaac, there's someone here to see you. A man in a suit, Department of Corrections badge. Isaac Young, I have news about your father. He's been granted early release. Parole board reviewed his case. He'll be out in 3 weeks. Isaac's world stopped, then started again. Different. Better. Emily grabbed his hand. Squeezed. Family, she whispered. Isaac squeezed back. Family. 1 year later, the Isaac and Emily Center had expanded to 3 locations across Boston. Over 500 kids enrolled, 90% from low-income backgrounds, 15% in wheelchairs or with other disabilities, 100% given a chance. Isaac, now 12, taught advanced contemporary 5 days a week, still lived in transitional housing with Tommy and his father, who'd found work as a maintenance supervisor, who'd stayed sober, who'd fought every day to be the dad Isaac deserved. Emily, also 12, performed in her first adaptive dance competition. Took 3rd place, cried happy tears on the podium. Victoria stepped down as CEO, started a nonprofit, focused full-time on expanding the center model nationwide. Margaret became the center's wellness director. Mr. Williams joined as community outreach coordinator. Rachel managed operations. Even the reporter, Thomas Richardson, faced consequences. Lost his job, paid fines, wrote an apology that actually felt genuine. Bernard Hartley served 18 months in federal prison, lost everything, exactly as he deserved. And the security guard who started it all? He applied for a job at the center. Isaac interviewed him personally. Why should I hire you? The guard looked at his hands. Because I was wrong. Because I judged you by your zip code instead of your character. Because I want to do better. Isaac thought about his grandfather, about forgiveness, about second chances. You start Monday, minimum wage. You work your way up. Fair? More than fair. On the center's first anniversary, they held a celebration, hundreds of kids performing, dancing, painting, singing, creating. Isaac and Emily sat in the front row, watching a 6-year-old boy in a wheelchair perform a routine they'd taught him. "You think we changed the world?" Emily asked. Isaac smiled. "We changed our world. That's enough." The boy finished his dance. The crowd roared. And somewhere in Boston, another kid who'd been told they didn't belong walked through the center's doors, ready to dance, ready to belong, ready to discover their worth. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness is stronger than cruelty, that worth isn't measured in dollars, that one person really can make a difference. Comment below. What's your worth, not wealth moment? When did someone see your value when the world saw nothing? We're all just dancing through this life. Let's make sure everyone gets a chance to move.